Righto, welcome to the channel. New car, new build, and I thought it was the perfect time to pretty much start the YouTube channel up. I've had this YouTube open for years, and I thought, you know what, it's time to post something on it. So, quick rundown. This is my 2022 np300 Navara. I've recently picked it up just over a week ago, and the itch for building it is already started. So in this video, we're going to do a couple of the basics to it, and we've also got a heap of parts on the way. Unfortunately, most of those need to be built or shipped from over east, so we are waiting currently. But in the meantime, I thought I'd get this out and start making something. And yeah, we're going to be traveling backwards in time a little bit to fitting up some of the mods that you do see already on the car and some that you don't. So with that being said, if you are interested in pretty much the build videos and full drive content, we are going to be recording a lot more. We do quite a few trips here based in WA, and we've got some stuff planned for the near future to go out and hit some of the tougher tracks, and also some beach runs, a few other bits and pieces. We've got quite a big convoy that usually goes with us, everything from late model Land Cruisers to patrols, some earlier Rangers, some later Rangers, Hilux, and pretty much everything in between. So you get to see a good variety of vehicles on the trips, and also working on those vehicles as well. So there's quite a lot that's going to be coming up on the channel. It's not going to be a daily post, or it might even not be a weekly one, but we are going to try and pump out a couple of videos coming up in the near future. So with that being said, let's get into this one. What we're going to be doing on the vehicle is one of these. It's an EVC throttle controller, and for years I thought these were a bit of a gimmick, and I finally put one on my other Navara that we've got, and man, do they make a difference in the way the car feels. So I've come down and I'm going to show you how easy these are to actually install in the vehicle. So first off, you need to get up under here and you'll find your throttle pedal. Now it's as simple as a little plug just up the top. You probably feel it rather than see it, and all you need to do is get behind it and push the two tabs, and it'll pop the slide for the plug forwards. And once we've done that, then we can pretty much pop that plug off, put the throttle controller in between it, and run the line up to where we want to put the actual display. Now that we've popped that plug out, I ended up using a little screwdriver that I had to help pop it out, because I couldn't actually get it out just with my fingers. Get the cover off. So that's the EVC once you open it up. So that's the plug there, it just sort of slides out, and then once it slides out, it's as simple as popping those two apart. Then this one goes on the throttle pedal, and this one hooks up to the old throttle pedal, your main plug off the throttle pedal. And then you run this line up here, or this wire, to pretty much wherever you want to fit this. I'm probably going to put mine around here for the moment, just so it's sort of in where I want to be able to see it, but it's out the way. So now that we've got it all plugged up, the wires run underneath, and pretty much that's the hardest part, is running the wire. So now we'll get in, turn the ignition on, and make sure everything powers up. There we go. So we've got power to it. You've got your economy and your ultimate mode, or pretty much the one you want to have fun with. My other one's always set on 9. And then this one doesn't do it, that's where it's turned off. And then this is your economy mode, so pretty much it lowers your throttle response to almost nothing. I use that one occasionally when we're off-road, just so the throttle response is a bit down. But besides that, I'm usually on 9, and that's the one that's going to give you the biggest performance gain. So we'll get this onto a back road, and we'll do a little bit of a test with it. Alright, so it's a couple of days later, and we are out testing the throttle controller. Obviously I've had a bit of a play with it over the last couple of days, and we just got caught up doing things, so we never ended up doing any more to the video. But with that being said, I've also experienced the throttle controller in the other MP that we've got as well, and it really does make a huge difference to these cars. It makes it feel like it's got another half the horsepower on top, and it gets to use that horsepower at a much quicker rate than without the throttle controller. So we're currently just out. I'll do probably a 0 to 80 with the throttle controller off, and then a 0 to 80 with the throttle controller on. I don't have the stopwatch or anything on it, but with that being said, you'll definitely be able to tell the difference. So we'll just turn around here, and then I'll flip the camera, and we can pretty much see what difference this is actually making. So we're not going to go exactly from 0. Unfortunately, I've got a car coming up behind me, but that is the foot buried there. And as you can see, these things do get up and move pretty well. So there's a 0 to pretty much 90 with the throttle controller off. And I'll now turn it on and sort of show you what it does at about quarter throttle instead. All right, same thing, around about 20 k's an hour, and this is about quarter throttle. And don't know if the video will show it justice, but definitely a huge difference. And like I said, I didn't have to bury my foot all the way into it. That's only about quarter throttle, and definitely quicker. So really, really big difference, and especially off the line as well. You can feel the torque almost coming quicker. Now I know it's not a power increase, I know it's not increasing your torque, but it's just the way that it makes it feel with the response of it. So this thing is getting a tune, so I can't wait to sort of feel what that's like afterwards as well. But like I said, well worth the money. So as you can see, my personal opinion, they make a huge difference. The throttle control is definitely well worth it. They have got 2 on the market now. They've got the EVC, which is what I have, and then they've got the EVC X, which is for a bit more if you want to, I guess, change things a lot more regularly on the fly. Not saying you can't do that with this particular, like the standard EVC. And most of the time you just put them in there, set them where you want them, and forget. This one's usually always set on the Ultimate 9. I just like to be able to drive like that. So with that being said, that's why I went down this path, and it's also a little bit cheaper. Besides that, you can adjust them very regularly. There's 2 buttons which goes through the modes, and then the other button does the actual settings of how high you want those modes. And usually off-road, like if you need to adjust it, you do that beforehand. So that's it for the section of the video with the throttle controller. We've got some other stuff coming up, so you'll see that in just a second. On a bit of a side note, if you also hear some snoring or something in the background, that's probably this guy right here. This is Meatball. He's our little English staffy. He sleeps 90% of the time, and he's always with me, so unfortunately you'll probably hear that lightly in the background, but he's a cutie. Righto.
We're going to be fitting up an aerial bracket to the nav. So this is from Hulk 4x4. I've used some of their products before, they're pretty good. Bracket's only about $50 from memory. So it just goes on the passenger side here and sort of sits up under there like that, and allows me to fit an aerial up near the windscreen, as I obviously don't have a bull bar on this thing yet. So we're going to get a couple of 12 mils by the looks, and we'll go and fit this bracket up. Now quickly before putting it on as well, it does come with these nuts. These are sort of recessed inside of this piece, like inside the bracket, and that's so you can get all the threads. Otherwise, if you try to use the factory nuts on them, there's only a couple of threads that they grab, and obviously you really don't want that, otherwise your bonnet's probably going to rattle around and eventually they'll come loose and cause you issues. And that is the bracket fitted up just there. So now we're going to go in and get our aerial and run that down and figure out how to get that into the cab. And once we've done that, we can mount up the UHF, and the UHF we've gone with, it's on the back of the car here. So it's one of the XRS, I think it's a 370C. We've also got the 2.1 dBi antenna for it. I have got the bigger aerial, but I just can't quite remember what size that is. But we'll be running that obviously because it's up on the bonnet. Otherwise it's going to stick up 3 foot in the air. This is for a later date, but this is the new Patroller part throttle body pipe. Obviously the Navaros have a little bit of an issue with the throttle body pipes popping the sensor out. So that's a replacement, so we can do a bit of preventative maintenance. Alright, so we got a little bit carried away. We have ended up mounting up all the aerials, so that's done now, all nice and tight. I do like the positioning of it. The only thing I do not like about this bracket is a bit tight under here. So when you shut the bonnet, you have to push down a little bit. I'm thinking I might have to just trim a little bit of a slot out so it hasn't got pressure on it, but it does fit really well besides that. So yeah, it's just one thing to keep in mind with the Hulk bracket. If you go that route, it is a bit tight to shut the last part of the bonnet. I'm not sure if they're all like that, but this one definitely is. Anyway, for the UHF itself, still got the glove box out. We've mounted it up underneath here, so there's 5 Phillips head screws that you need to take out. This drops down, and then I used a bracket from Sharp 4x4 over here in West Australia. I'm sure many places make them, but they use 2 factory mounting locations up above the fuse box. So 2 10mm bolts, screws in there, and then screws to the factory bracket that comes with your UHF. We then used a piggyback fuse jumper to just tap into, well, not tap into, but pretty much just poke it into where one of the fuses are that turns on and off with the ignition. I didn't want to have it on permanently just in case I forget. So yeah, that pretty much goes on and off with the ignition, and then we use the earth on one of the bolts that goes to the brackets up in there. Besides that, while we're also in there, we installed an anytime locker switch from Precision Lighting. I also got a lighting harness from them for when I do fit a light bar or spotlights to the front of this, as well as this little plug here, which allows me to run the UHF. Now I have also got the 2 slots coming from Patrol Apart, where these little mounts are going to be able to slot into properly. They're just sort of sitting there for the moment. They're a bit tight, so it's not going to fall out, but yeah, obviously want to do this right, and we've got those on the way for both sides. But yeah, the anytime locker switch is as simple as a small piggyback harness, which is just here. You pop this plug out, poke it into the harness, then poke the other end of the harness back in, run your wire to your plug, and when you go to use your locker, you put your locker in down here, and it'll work in 2 high, 4 high, or 4 low, unlike factory where it only works in 4 low. And then once you've selected your locker, you just click the anytime locker switch or the rear locker switch there, and that'll bypass and pretty much turn the locker on in any range, which is definitely a good thing to have.
I just had the postie rock up, and we're going to go in and actually install these. So these are the new switch panels from Patrol Apart to take up the little pockets that are on the center console that are pretty much useless for most things. So yeah, that's the part number for the MPs. And I'll quickly unbox these, or take them out the pack, and I'll give you a better look. Alright, and that is them out the packet. So as you can see, nice piece of kit. I'm guessing they're probably 3D printed. And the Patrol Apart nav part logo in the sides of them just there. They're held in by 2 bolts, but unfortunately they're not a 5-second fit. They do have to be fitted from underneath, and the bolts are a pain in the ass to get to. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a hassle, but we'll get it done. So let's go in and pull the console apart and try and fit these up. Alright, so as you can see at the moment, this is how we left it. So they're just sort of sitting in there. It works for what it is. So if you really didn't want to spend the I think it was around $70 on these 2, you could just leave it like that if you desperately needed to. But I want this thing to look clean, so we're going to have to pull the console out, which means removing the gear stick. That's fairly easy. You just grab this chrome piece, wiggle it down, and then there's a little spring clip that goes around, and that'll pop the actual gear lever off. I'll use 2 hands because I've lost this spring clip before. So that's a little clip just there, and once you're done, you just sort of wiggle the gear stick backwards and forwards and lift it up. We'll drop that in there, and then you take the little chrome bottom cover off, and that's as simple as doing that. Remove this out the cigarette lighter, or the USB port, sorry. And then after that, you need to get around this edge here, and this whole section pops up. We'll undo the cables off the selective mode switch and a couple of the other shorter cables, and then we'll just fold this out the way. Otherwise, you have to pull out all the retainer plugs and stuff to actually be able to remove it completely. So we really don't want to be doing that. There's 2 screws down the bottom here, so you got to move the seats right forward. You take those out, and then that pretty much loosens up the entire console. Hopefully we'll have enough room once that's done to be able to just bend the side out a little bit and screw them up from the bottom. That's how I took the original one out. If not, we'll have to mess around a bit more and actually pull the full console up or backwards, or figure it out from there. So let's get into doing that. Okay, so now that we've unplugged, there's 3 plugs here, plus the 4th one that has got still quite a bit of extension on it, sort of laid to the side at the moment. And now what we're going to be doing is popping this console backwards. Like I said, we've got to remove, also got to turn those off. We've got to remove the 2 screws that are down the side. So I'm going to get around and do that, and then we'll come back and actually move the console. Oh, and there is 2 extra screws up the front there. Okay, so now that we've removed those couple of screws, obviously the 2 up the front and the 2 down the back, the console is loose. So we're going to go around to the side now, and like I said, you can sort of flex this up enough where you should be able to get the new pockets in. I've kept the screws in here after I dig all that out, and we'll get around to actually doing that now. So you can definitely fit them back in without removing the console completely. These have got a lot of stretch in them, so you can just get the 2 bolts and then the little bottom clip, this piece here, up in the inside, that sort of just pushes in, sits underneath the actual lip, and then the 2 screws hold it in place. You've got a little bit of adjustment, obviously, to get things lined up. It was easy just to do it off camera, because it's only me struggling for the last 5 minutes trying to put 2 screws in. It is a bit of a struggle, but rather than trying to remove the full console, trying to remove the handbrake and do all that, plus the wiring for the seat warmers and everything else, definitely an easier option. So I'm going to go around to the other side. Again, I probably won't record any of that because it's just me putting 2 screws in and taking 2 screws out because I haven't taken the other side out. But you get the point of it. So we'll go back to it once I've installed this one. There's this side installed as well. I found this side actually to be a little bit stiffer, but it was also easier to install, weirdly. So I guess it's probably because I did the other side already. But we're going to clean this up. So that is the console back together. Everything's looking good. I'm going to go get some cleaner and wipe everything over. I've got some fingerprints and stuff on the car. But yeah, they definitely turned out really good. Fit in there quite nicely. And house the switches really well. So we've obviously got the anytime locker switch plus the UHF on this side. And in the future, we're going to put the driving lights and the front locker on this side.
Alright, so now that the UHF and anytime diff lock's done, we're going to fit up a set of weather shields, which have just come in. Here's the weather shields just there. Now I run these on most of my cars. If you've got your windows cracked or even fully down, just to keep that bit of weather spray out. But yeah, easy enough to put on. Just some double-sided tape on the back. I usually go through a little bit of polish or something over the areas that they're going to get put on. That way you get rid of any contamination. So I'll go around and quickly do that. Alright, so I like to start with the back ones. A little bit smaller to work with. You can get the lines lined up on them, and then you can use that as a bit of a guide for the front ones. So it's simple as pretty much pulling the 3M tape off on the back here. Definitely just make something more of the side of the car. Plus we've got the UHF now sitting there up top. And it's slowly getting little bits done, slowly coming along, which I'm very happy about.
Alright guys, so that's probably going to be a wrap for today's video. Hopefully you got a bit of information out of it, a little bit of enjoyment. I know it's probably a bit basic for the first video, but as things progress, it'll definitely get a lot better. With that being said, we have got a few more parts that have just rocked up for the car. So in the next couple of days, we're going to be fitting those up. Hopefully, the last of the suspension stuff is going to rock up tomorrow. And then once we've done that, we can lift this thing up a little bit more. Besides that, there's still a list of stuff that's on the way or currently still getting made for the car. So within the next few weeks, they will rock up. I'm only talking about the snorkel and airbox, which has to obviously be made for it, and the underbody bash plates from Custom Off-Road. So that stuff is already ordered and hopefully gets here quite quickly. But obviously that's in another video. With that being said, if you did enjoy, please give us a like and a subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one.